Right, welcome back to another video. So the main purpose of this video is to see how my new line boring machine works that I've just made, but I'll just give you a quick run through on what I've done to get from that to that. Just a quick run through because I've already done a video on it, and then I'll go into a bit more detail on using the new line boring machine. So yeah, I'll just show you that first. So we've got another JCB carriage to sort out. As you can see, they're not supposed to be like that. It's a common weak spot on these JCBs. They're just not enough metal across there, and it just pulls them out. The pin wears, and then yeah, it just rips them out. Looks like for some reason someone's drilled it and put a grub screw in. I'm not really sure why they do that, whether they've tried to stop the pin coming out, what I don't know, but that's just made a weak spot across there. You can see how it's broken across because where that grub screw has been drilled. Now, another common problem with them is that bolt snaps off, and then the pin comes out one side and then puts a lot more stress on the other side. Plasmed out some new plates, but thicker across there, so there's more metal across there. So we'll get these prepped. I want a 30-degree bevel on them. There's that hole to drill and tap out M16, and then we can cut the old ones off and weld these new ones on. So I've got these plates lined up on the cutting bench now. Just made sure that they're parallel with the track. If you haven't seen this machine before, it's a Magic Eye profiler, and it follows whatever pattern you draw, but you can also cut straight lines with it as well. So just use that. I'll set the torch at 30 degrees and then cut down there at 30 degrees to put the weld prep on. Clamped on the side so I can chalk mark a line across the bottom where I need to chop it off. The hole that I've plasmed out is smaller than what it needs to be, but then when I line bore it back through, yeah, I've got some metal to cut out. So yeah, that's lined up there and there. I have some measurements of where the hole centre needs to be in comparison with the headstock, but the hole is small enough to have enough metal to work that out afterwards, so it doesn't really matter now where the hole is. I've got cut through them. We'll just have to gouge them welds out now, and then they'll come off. Right, so I've got them tacked on now. Got a bit of plate across the top, stop them splaying out, and I've got some runoff plates tacked on. Right, so that's the root pass and the first pass done over the top. We'll turn it over now, do the same on the bottom side. And then once we've turned it over, I'll just fill the other one in. You know, at the beginning of the video I said about them grub screws in there and I wasn't sure why they were there. I see why they're there now. Someone's been at it before and they've put bushes in. So what they've done there basically is made a weak point even weaker because they've removed metal to put a bush in. And the bush doesn't have any strength to it at all, so all I've done is made that thinner and made it weaker. That's why fixing stuff with a bush is not really the proper way to do it. You want to build the hole up and then take the material out rather than just taking the material out. It's not too bad on something like that because there's plenty of beef around it, but even still, it'd be better building it up and then line boring it back through rather than just putting a bush in there. That's that one finished anyway. I've chopped my runoff plates off and just blended the ends in a bit. In the middle I found a bit of porosity. I had to gouge it back out and then re-weld it, so it just put me out of sync a little bit with my cap, so there's like an extra run across the top there just to fill it in, but happy with that. There's plenty of welding there. Right, so that's them both sides runoff plates removed and welded up, so it's ready to line bar now. Right, it should be up to speed on whereabouts we are now, so we can get the line bar mounted and get the line bar through. Right, so this is a line boring machine I've just made. I've done a 4-part series on it, so if you haven't seen it, go and check it out, see how I made it. So I've got to get this mounted onto the side of there, and I've just made this bearing goes in there, and that nips down onto it, and that's what mounts the whole thing. So I've got to get that tacked on, and then for now I'm just going to use my old self-aligning bearings that I used before, and then that's my boring bar. So I have to set them up first, set the bar up, make sure the bar is parallel with the bottom holes, and then weld them on, or just tack them on. So I'm just going to use my alignment cones just to roughly get me in the right place, and then I'll have to take quite a few measurements just to double check that the bar is parallel. So you can see with this bearing housing here, I'm having a bit of bother getting it onto the shaft. When I made it too tight interference fit. I only had 2 bearings in it at this point, and because they're only 15mm wide bearings and they're right at the start of the housing, the weight of the whole thing was sort of resting on the bearings and nipping up. And then when I did finally get it onto the shaft, and then when I tried tacking it up, obviously it just pulled it out of line and it was nipping it up again. So I had a little stand and look at it for a minute, and I decided to take that new bearing housing back off again and to go back to using me self-aligning bearings to get the bar lined up where I needed it. Right, so I think I've got the bearings set up where I want them. I've done as many measurements as I possibly can, and just for a visual check I've just lined this steel up just so it's on the very edge of that hole onto the bar, and then done the same over there. And you can see just when the two meet, and they're absolutely parallel with each other near enough. And I've done that on 2 different angles like that, and then also like that on the other side, and they both match up that way as well, so I'm happy that the bar is in the right place. Right, so I finally got my bearing mounted. It's taken quite a while to get that on so the bar will slide through. Still a bit tight, but I need to make these adjustable and a better setup, but this is just literally for this job. And I've used my old bearing either end. These are just easier to get lined up with rather than trying to tack this on and then it not be lined up with the bar and nips on the bearings and everything. So that's why I've used them, got it lined up with that, and just slid this over, tacked it on, but yeah, it's taking a bit of doing as that. Right, so that is it mounted. Feels fairly rigid. So if we put a tool in that hole there, we'll have enough travel on here to do both holes without having to take the tool out, and like before I had to do one hole, take the tool out, reset and do the other hole, which meant I had to do two sets of measuring, where now I'll only have to do one set of measuring because both holes should be the same. I'll still check anyway, but yeah, we'll put a tool in now and have a go. Right, so I've got the tool put in. I've got it sticking out 10mm, so that should just take us a nice clean cut out just to clear it all up. Should get us to 60mm. And we need final cut needs to be 65. So that's the first cut done. Looks alright. Second one is a bit chattery, but I think that's maybe because it wasn't taking a full cut at this side. Well, actually it hasn't taken any cut, that's where I've die grind it out. I die grind the crappy bit out, so yeah, where it has cut. Yeah, it's not too bad, a little bit rough. So I'll measure the hole now with my spring calipers and then use my trusty dial gauge to advance the tool out. Right, that's the second cut done. Looks alright, some decent looking chips coming out of it. So that's the second cut. If we do one more cut, hopefully that will get us back up to 65mm where we need to be. $63.5. After you see it, look. On the old digger. I got sidetracked by the helicopter. Yeah, so we'll change the tool now and do one final cut. Right, so I want to move the tool on 0.8 of a millimetre. So you have to remember what the little pointer's on, otherwise if it jumps and you forget what number the little one's on, you lose where you are. So that's on just under 4. So 0.8, so that's half. 7, 8. Oh yeah, fuck it. So people did suggest a few solutions last time to get over this issue of it moving when you tighten the grub screw up. It's just I've not got round to solving the problem yet, so I'm still struggling on like I'm doing here. I might do. Right, so they both should be cut out to size now. I'm going to take the bar out first before I take the machine off and just double check the size of the holes, and then if they're alright we'll take it all to bits, take all the bearings off and take that off and clean it up, and then it's finished. Right, so just measuring inside these holes now. Near enough. Just over 65. 65.04. that'll be near enough. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so we'll take everything off now. This is the worst part of the job, having to tidy up afterwards. So that is the finished job. I've been through there with a tap, make sure that's alright, both sides. Reasonable cut quality. Ready to go back to the farmer now, go back on his machine. Yeah, there it is, it works anyway. It needs a bit more refining, but it's a lot better than the mag drill. So with it being made out of steel, it is fairly heavy, but it's not like it's a tool that you're carrying around all the time. You know, you carry it to where you need it, put it on, and then, you know, that's it until you've done the job, until you take it off again. So it's not too bad. If I was going to make another one, I'd probably make it out of aluminium. But yeah, no, overall I'm pretty pleased with it. I need to do something better with these. This was just temporary anyway, like I say, but I need to make that bolt on. But it's just took the enthusiasm out of the job really, because every time I tried to tack it, it just kept moving and then it kept nipping up on the shaft. So I spent a bit of time getting that right, you know, lined up right. And I also had a bit of bother with the bearings when I first made it, and I pushed the bearings in. It didn't take much force to press them in. I only pressed them in with that little press, but they went tight to the bearings, so then I had to press them out. And I had to like go around them with a sanding wheel just to polish them up so they'd fit in nicer. But then when I put 4 bearings in, there was too much like resistance on the bar, and the bar wouldn't slide through it very well. So then I had to take them back out again. Then I made a spacer, put a spacer in, so there's now 2 bearings in, one at the bottom, one at the top. That seems to be alright. It slides nice on the shaft as that now on the o-ring bar. So I need to make either an adjustable one or have a look how the proper ones are. I've never seen a proper one in person, only pictures and videos on the internet, so I'll do a bit more research and see how the professionals do it. I think I need to get some better tools as well. This is the one I used, but I don't think it's very well suited for the iron boy job. It seems to like gum up on the end a little bit. So yeah, overall, I'm pleased with it. It's a good tool. Once I get some better bearing mounting plates and that made, I'll be well away with it. I'll make probably a smaller bar as well for doing smaller jobs. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.